It's easy to be online and shout the odds off about him, but if he was in front of you and telling you now, he's a force to be reckoned with. You'd yourself.
A notorious gangster is on the run. Cleveland police are searching for a former key figure in an organised crime gang. He's dubbed by some as a big Viking stomper. But where is Danny G? Here's what we know about Danny's movements after leaving the prison. He made his way on foot to James Cook University Hospital train station, where he's seen getting on a train which is destined for Middlesbrough. He then gets on another train which is heading for Darlington, and then he gets on a third train which is heading to Liverpool Lime Street. But the police have not told us what stop Danny G got off at. Now, they must know, because every train's got CCTV and the overwhelming majority of railway stations have got CCTV. So perhaps the police know a bit more than they're actually willing to tell us at the moment. As you can see from these images, Danny was wearing a blue jacket at one point and was in company with a lady who had a leopard print hat on. And whilst he did travel with this woman apparently on a train for a short while, they did part company during the train journey. Danny, of course, has a reputation in Liverpool and beyond. He's over 6 foot tall and he's quite a unit. He can shift some furniture, shall we say. So, he's not somebody to be messed with. In the early 2000s, Danny G ran a drug dealing gang on the Grisdale estate in Liverpool. Danny was in his early 20s, and together with brothers and other people, they had an iron grip on the drug dealing on this estate. They had a team of kids who would ride bikes as they dealt their drugs. One 16-year-old, called Jamie Starkey, was in conflict with Danny, and there was gossip, rumour, and other stories about broken windows and arguments and disagreements between these two. At 5 a.m. on New Year's Day 2008, Jamie Starkey and Danny G were having an argument outside a pub. This argument lasted for some 15 minutes and ended when 16-year-old Jamie pulled out a gun and shot Danny. One bullet pierced his stomach and another went through a lung before exiting out of his back. Remarkably, only 4 days after being shot, Danny G was arrested for conspiracy to supply controlled drugs, and he was charged. In June 2008, he was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. In October 2008, because of the shooting incident, Jamie Starkey was sentenced for wounding with intent and possessing a firearm with intent. He was sentenced to 7 years in jail. The evidence that had sent Danny G to prison for the drugs conspiracy had largely been obtained by the police way before then, as they'd bugged his flat. They'd heard Danny plotting drug deals. They'd also heard him trying to lay his hands on guns and plotting revenge for being shot by Jamie Starkey. And so whilst Danny was in prison for the drugs offences, he was further charged with making threats to kill and conspiracy to obtain firearms. So whilst Danny was serving his drugs sentence, he went to court again and was found guilty of 2 counts of threat to kill and 2 counts of blackmail. He was sentenced this time to an indeterminate sentence, so it has no specific or specified release date. In fact, the judge at the time, Henry Globe, said that Danny G was so dangerous, he wasn't able to say when it would be safe to release him. So whilst the sentence was only 4.5 years and was to run alongside the 7 years that he was doing for the drugs offences, it meant that he had no idea when he would be released. The prosecutor in this case, Ian Unsworth, said at the trial that Danny G's thirst for revenge knew no bounds. Jamie Starkey was released after serving 3.5 years of his sentence and was released in September 2011. Just before 8 p.m. on Sunday, the 2nd of December 2012, Jamie Starkey was unloading Christmas presents from his car outside his house in Fazakerley, Liverpool. A gunman approached and shot him 4 times in the chest and 2 times in the head. The gunman fled and to this day has not been caught. Now, call this killer what you will, a contract killer, a paid assassin, somebody with an interest in doing Starkey harm. We simply don't know because he's never been caught. But what we can say is that he definitely meant Starkey to die, and in that regard, together with never being caught thus far, it would appear his objectives were achieved. Danny G continued to serve his time in prison and eventually was regarded as being such a low risk that he could be transferred to a Category D prison. In other words, an open prison. People get sent there when they're approaching the end of their sentence. If you've got a drugs habit, you're not going to a Category D prison. If you pose a threat to former inmates, you're not going to go to a Category D prison. So it would appear that Danny had kept his nose clean in prison. However, on the 27th of May this year, Danny walked out of that jail and never returned. He's on the run. And Cleveland police at the moment are the lead agency in trying to find Danny G. Danny had other brothers involved in criminality. His brother Darren is very well known. He served a lot of time in jail and now he can be found on podcasts and YouTube and all manner of things talking about crime. In fact, Darren said that if this was a planned escape by his brother Danny, he expects him to be out of the country by now. And that, of course, could be a possibility. Those people who stay on the run for a considerable amount of time, people like Kevin Powell, for example, who's been wanted for 20 years, need a network to support them. Is Danny out of the country? Has he headed down to southern Spain, for example, where many Liverpool criminals, in fact criminals from all over the UK and all over the world, have found themselves to southern Spain? In fact, only last week, I was messaged by someone who's, let's just say, in the know, to say that they expect there to be bloodshed, unfortunately, down on the costas of Spain soon, because there is a power struggle going on. A power struggle for the illegal drugs industry. Because that industry is illegal, violence is a currency. It's how you protect your business interests. It's how you get people to do what you want them to do. It's how you stop people taking liberties with you. And of course, as long as that industry is illegal, as long as criminals run it, the 4th biggest industry in the world, then violence will always play a part. Cleveland police have said that they remain in charge of the investigation, but that it might get handed over to Merseyside police depending on what they discover. This investigation, of course, will be as big and as thorough and as professional as the resources that are deployed to it. If Danny is regarded as a threat, someone who's a menace, who needs to be taken off the streets urgently, then a lot of detectives will be deployed to look for him. They will be contacting any informants, snouts, grasses, snitches, or covert human intelligence sources, as the police call them these days, to see what they know. They may be monitoring the communications of other family members, all entirely understandable. That could be monitoring phones, iPads, laptops, any kind of electronic traffic where they feel they might get some useful intelligence from. They might start knocking doors down soon if they think Danny is being protected or harboured or held or kept in any specific location. I think it's fair to say that Danny could be regarded as a danger to anybody that's irritated him, crossed him, or annoyed him in the past. Those people perhaps better be looking over their shoulders until such time as Danny is caught. And when is that going to be? When will he be captured? Well, I guess the answer to that is how long is a piece of string? We might get some more clues if the police give us more press conferences. We might be able to read between the lines as to how far and how well their investigation is going. At the moment, they're pretty tight-lipped, and I'm not about to start putting any kind of timescale on it. A word of warning for somebody who is thinking or actually is harbouring Danny. If you help him, if you feed him, clothe him, put a roof over his head, transport him around, give him a motor, cash, anything like that to help him, you could find yourselves in a bit of trouble because harbouring a fugitive is a criminal offence. And on that note, I'll rest my case.